Welcome back, Nuggets. This mother clucker has some thoughts. Let's ruffle some feathers and get into the first video about Eugenia Cooney. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Eugenia who lived in a castle made of fears. Each brick had been carefully laid by well-meaning hands, each window frosted with protective intentions. In this castle, she was kept safe from every imaginable harm. But safety, as it often does, came with a price. As the years passed, the castle walls grew higher, its rooms smaller. With each fear left unfaced, with each challenge avoided, an invisible monster grew stronger. This wasn't the kind of monster that lived under beds or in dark closets. No, this was a monster that whispered, "Stay safe, stay small, stay." It fed on missed opportunities, unopened doors, and unwalked paths. The monster grew so large that it filled every corner of her world until her entire kingdom shrank to the size of a snow globe. Beautiful, contained, and forever frozen in time. Now at 30, she still wanders the same magical kingdom where everything is so pretty and so perfect and so magical. A place where growing up is optional and reality stays safely outside the gates. But in her quest to remain forever young, forever safe, forever protected, she may have locked herself in a prison more confining than any fear she originally sought to avoid. Okay, so this is a very exciting video for me to be making. It is the first one on Eugenia Cooney. And although I've been doing a lot of content on Amberlynn Reid, Eugenia Cooney was actually the original concept for this reaction channel. I feel connected with Eugenia on a very scary level where I feel like her life could have very easily been my life with just a handful of bad decisions made. Although I am very conscious of the fact that I view things through my own filter, I do feel that she and I may have one very large thing in common, and that is her mother. So I've been wanting to make this video for a little while, and it is a little bit of a test because we know that Eugenia does employ companies to mass copyright strike content. So I've had to have a think about how I'm going to do this video and do it a little bit different to my other content. But if this goes well, I do intend on doing much deeper dives on her entire history. There is something about Ms. Cooney that is intriguing and captivating, and I think that's proven by her audience. They see all of these negative behaviors and poor outcomes, but they still genuinely want to see her improve. And I know that the idea has been floated that maybe she's past that point of return, but I would like to think she's not. But let's do a little bit of a brief breakdown on what I have observed about her. So the fear monster concept that I discussed in the story, it's something that I've had to deal with in my life and something that I see in a lot of others, including people like Amberlynn Reid, including people like Foodie Beauty, Hungry Fat Chick, that everybody mentioned has created the world to be so small that a fear monster can exist. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you imagine anxiety, and I'm not just talking about your normal fears like, oh, I'm scared of spiders or snakes or whatever. I'm talking about the crippling fears that haunt you through your days that prevent you from doing things that you want to do and prevent you from doing things that are healthy for you. So I think of it as a monster that every time you avoid a challenge or every time you give into a fear or just generally every time you don't do that thing that you want to do or need to do, you fed the monster and he grows a little bit. And every fear that you face, every time you do something scared anyway, every time you witness yourself doing something or mastering something, the monster gets a little bit smaller. So whether or not the monster fully goes away when you have anxiety disorders, I don't know. I can tell you that my fear monster is very tiny at this point after a great deal of work, but is still present, although I am now getting to the point after years of practice where I'm able to start doing things without even thinking about the fear, which is brilliant. The problem is when you feed this monster, it has like this compounding effect of protection where the world becomes increasingly threatening. So then you need to protect yourself even more. And it's almost like experiencing paralysis of like waiting to feel ready or waiting to feel brave. But in actual fact, the fears need to be faced scared. Because if you think about it, you cannot be brave in the absence of fear. Bravery does not exist without fear. Bravery exists when you go, yep, I'm scared, I'm gonna go and cluck and do this anyway. If you've never experienced this, I'm so genuinely happy for you, but anyone who needs to hear this, I hope it falls on your ears. So unfortunately, Eugenia also lacks a support system. I don't believe that everything in Eugenia's life is her mother's fault. Please do not mistake me. But I think that sometimes things begin for one reason and then continue for another. And I think sometimes where protection can start with good intentions, it becomes a pattern over time and then becomes this kind of codependent dynamic between the two, almost where they are enabling each other in a sense. But when you think about Eugenia's life, she really doesn't have quality external relationships, ones that will build her up, ones that will show her an alternative perspective. And it makes it really difficult to break a pattern of dependency like that without support. So in a sense, her isolation is maintaining her dysfunction. So how do you break free? And how long does it take? I can't speak for everyone. I can tell you that it took me a very long time. From the point of having to cut my mother out of my life to the point that I'm at now is over a decade. In regards to actively facing the fears, I treated it like it was an addiction and I didn't let myself slip on any. So as soon as I had identified that, oh, that's something that scares me, it's a case of, well, now I have to do it. And it took many years of doing that before I got to the point where I'm just largely autonomous at this point. And what it boils down to is really that it is an ongoing choice to improve, an ongoing choice to grow and to be the person that you want to be. None of this is easy. It takes a lot of work. It's exhausting. But I am here to tell you, if nobody has, it is worth it. And what's more is once you observe yourself becoming a capable human being, somebody who can adult properly, somebody with skills and personality and relationships, you realize that the thing that you were fearing all along is actually one of the most comforting things you could possibly do for yourself. Okay, so that's enough of an introduction. Let's get into the video.
Hi guys, so I know I haven't posted a video on here in a little bit. I thought like what better place to do that than Disney World?
Okay, so my first impressions, I hadn't been following Eugenia in a few months, probably since she had that ban on TikTok for a time, so earlier this year. And I have to say that this really took my breath away. So there is a noticeable decline going on. And I think the most disheartening thing about it is that you see repeatedly throughout this video that there's constant body checking and viewing herself through the viewfinder. And you can see that she genuinely likes what she sees. And it is heartbreaking because I do believe that she deserves so much better for herself.
I'm in Magic Kingdom right now and been doing some really fun rides. Magic Kingdom is probably my favorite park if I had to pick one.
Okay, so we're back at Disney, of course, in the Magic Kingdom, which is her favorite. With full Mickey ear regalia on, and this is the first YouTube video uploaded in 9 months, although of course on other social media she's been very active. So what I was talking about earlier with the fears and with challenges being avoided and fears being indulged, returning over and over and over to Disney Magic Kingdom is safe. It's a place where you can go to escape from adult expectations. It's an environment where everything is pretend, and where, more specifically, pretend is completely normalized. It's a controlled and predictable environment because she's been there so many times. She probably knows it like the back of her hand. I'm sure she could walk around blindfolded. And that is that comfort of isolation and predictability that I'm talking about. So there's no challenge to her, even though she is out in the world, and I'm sure that to a point is quite scary. She's just going to a place that she is very comfortable with. So this is nothing more than comfort-seeking behavior, which is not helpful. So I did notice here that she's like moving her hair to cover her collarbone, and she's completely surrounded by children in the background and constantly looking herself in the camera and not at her audience. I think this is showing that she's in full grip of her illness, and also this kind of almost compulsive self-obsession that she's been nurturing.
We've gone in Dumbo a couple of times, so I think we're going to be riding Dumbo again. And you guys, I got Dumbo. Yay! Whoa. Okay, and I'm trying to like, whoa!
So she's talking about going on children's rides repeatedly, and seems legitimately nervous at the height and the speed of this children's ride. And from what I can see, even as far as children's rides go, this one is quite tame. I'm sure that the ride choices are to do with physical limitations, masked as preferences, and she's clearly experiencing a fear response, even to just these like mild, very mild rides, which is pretty much just reinforcing the fear through avoidance, as I discussed earlier, and in effect, growing that fear monster of hers. And it's so conflicting, isn't it, with Eugenia, because I think on the one hand, there's a lot to be pitied here, but on the other hand, it's so clear to go, well, you're the only person that can change this. Nobody else is going to be able to do this for you. What do you think? I find her to be a completely fascinating study. And as I mentioned, you know, I see a lot of my past self in her. The full body shots, particularly when she's walking away from the camera, I always find quite striking, because from the front, she looks like this fragile little girl-like creature. And then from the back, she looks distinctly like an 80-year-old or 90-year-old woman walking around. She's very hunched. It's absolutely staggering to see. And of course, we can see that somebody is holding the camera for her in this scene. I assume it's her mother. I think where my head keeps going is I just can't wrap my head around how she can see this and how she can allow it to continue. But that's what I mean by I think there's codependency. I think that the mother has her own issues that she needs to work through. And of course, Eugenia has hers. At 30, she is so incredibly sheltered and so naive. She is absolutely more like a young teen than a 30-year-old woman. So whether or not her mother is maintaining like a pattern of control to create this strategic helplessness, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's conscious in the sense of, oh yes, I'm going to fulfill my dastardly deed and make sure that Eugenia stays helpless. I think it's just a very toxic situation that they've both found themselves in many years after the fact of it being created in the first place.
The ride that we did earlier, it's like the Barnstormer, and it's like kind of a roller coaster, but like a mini one, so I got a little scared, but I survived it. It was worth doing, guys. It was really fun.
Okay, so again, this train ride, she describes it as a mini roller coaster. And then she goes in at the end talking about that she survived it and it was worth doing and it was really fun and it was worth it, guys. And that kind of thing comes across as really condescending from somebody like Eugenia, where it's kind of like, it makes you go, well, does she know exactly what she's doing or doesn't she? Is this just all an elaborate troll, or is she actually proud of herself in this moment for tricking herself into thinking that she's done something to challenge herself? Because the reality is that when you observe yourself breaking through things and succeeding in things, it feels really good, but you can fake those scenarios as well. And by tricking yourself into riding a mini roller coaster, that's absolutely one way to do it. So I noticed in this video in particular, she's really dressed like a little girl. Pale pink, frilly things, and she's quite covered up for Eugenia. And And I hadn't actually put it together before now, but this is Halloween, and Mrs. Jack Skellington herself is not dressed up. I find this very unusual. Very unusual. So whenever Eugenia is out in public, I always look for this kind of thing. And I can't get my head around how the mother, or whoever is recording, to be fair, we don't know it's the mother, can't see the looks she's getting. And I just wanted to put these clips in because you look at some people are doing, you know what some people do when they see a disabled person, they're like, oh no, I don't want to be rude, I will not look. And there's this like staunch look ahead or look away and they don't acknowledge. But then you get the other types of people who, for lack of a better term, gawk at her. And you can actually see both examples in these clips. But it's just wild, you know, if you're somebody who's in a place where you're supposed to care about this person, how can you see these looks and not make a change? I mean, we don't know that she's not attempting to make a change, I guess, but I feel like decades of evidence shows that since the situation has not changed, there's not drastic attempts, at least. So in her videos, all through it actually, I could probably make a little compilation of this where she almost does these really sultry looks at herself. She is constantly body checking. I have been in this place. I do know, just to clarify, I didn't have this exact seating disorder, but adjacent, shall we say. And this constant body checking, it's like this cycle of going, oh, I feel anxious. Now I'm going to body check. Oh, good. Okay. I look all right. I look okay. Oh, good. Sigh of relief. Oh no, now I'm anxious again. Okay, no, I look okay. And do you get what I mean? It's like this cyclic thing that she will be going through second to second basis. It's exhausting, by the way.
But yeah, Disney's just always such a great place, and it's been so much fun here. Even the trees here and just everything, guys, it's so magical here. The sky always looks so pretty in Florida, like at least in Disney. Always looks so beautiful. Even like the boat rides here, and it's so pretty just like out on the water here. I love it.
But something I noticed is everything is always so beautiful and so magical and so pretty. It's almost like there's a complete denial and aversion to anything negative at all. Almost like if we don't look at it, it doesn't exist. Just put those blinkers on. Everything's pretty. Everything's magical. Everything's beautiful, you know? And I think she's almost creating this fantasy narrative around herself where she can actively avoid reality and what's going on, despite the fact that I know in her comments she is getting reality checks constantly. But this is all in the effort to maintain that protective bubble that she's built up around herself. And it is a long-term coping strategy, and my goodness, is she good at it. She is really well practiced.
See you real soon, guys. Yay.
So hopefully this finds you well. Hopefully the whole thing got out and we've had no shenanigans with improper use of copyright claims. If everything went well, I want to do deep dives into every year of her existence on the internet. So that will be coming out over time. Not to mention there's a couple of other people that I would like to start covering as well. I'm just trying to find the balance of time with everything because I'm still quite new, but I'm really enjoying this, so I'm going to keep going. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm really interested to hear people's perspective on this because, as I mentioned in my disclaimer, we all view these situations through our own personal filters that are shaped by our own experiences, traumas, and beliefs. And I think we all see different aspects, whether it's of ourselves or people we've known or these public figures that are problematic are so beneficial in that regard because we can really reflect and learn from their lives that they put up on the internet. So let me know. What did you think? All right, well, I think that's all the clucks I have left to give today. Stay golden, my little nuggets, and I will catch you next time.
Hey! I'm gonna go watch another video. Let's go!